Some football stories are beautiful, some are tragic. And then there's Adriano's, a story so powerful, so heartbreaking, that even today fans ask, what if? Because Adriano Leite Ribeiro was more than just a striker. He was more than just a goal scorer. For a short time, he was the most terrifying forward on the planet. A man who seemed destined to become one of the greatest of all time. And yet, his story ended in silence, in regret, in a tragedy that had nothing to do with broken bones or torn muscles, but everything to do with pain, grief, and the crushing weight of life itself. This is the story of Adriano, the man who was called the Emperor, the man who conquered the football world and then lost it all. Adriano was born in 1982 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. But not in the Rio that tourists dream about. Not in the postcard beaches or fancy hotels. Adriano was born in Vila Cruzeiro, one of Rio's toughest favelas. The favela wasn't just poor, it was violent. Gangs, drugs, shootings. This was Adriano's reality. He grew up in a place where survival was already an achievement. But football was his escape. Like so many Brazilian kids, Adriano didn't need a stadium. He didn't need expensive boots. All he needed was a ball. On the dusty streets of Vila Cruzeiro, he played barefoot, blasting shots that rattled walls and broke windows. Even as a boy, people said Adriano's left foot was like a cannon. He dreamed of being like Ronaldo, like Romario, heroes of Brazilian football. But for Adriano, the dream was also a way out, a way to lift his family from poverty. And soon, that dream started becoming reality. Adriano's talent couldn't be hidden for long. Flamengo, one of Brazil's biggest clubs, spotted the raw power in this teenager from the favela and brought him into their academy. At Flamengo, Adriano began to develop into something terrifying. He wasn't just strong, he was huge. Nearly 6'2", built like a tank, but with the touch of a Brazili and street baller. He could dribble, he could spin, and when he hit the ball with his left foot, goalkeepers trembled. At just 18 years old, he made his debut for Flamengo's first team. And in that moment, Brazil knew a new superstar was coming. Europe, of course, was watching. And before long, the call came. In 2001, at just 19 years old, Adriano signed for Inter Milan. Inter saw what everyone saw: the next Ronaldo, a striker who could dominate the world. But moving from Rio's favelas to Milan's bright lights wasn't easy. Adriano didn't speak Italian. He didn't know the culture. He was just a kid. And suddenly, he was in one of the toughest leagues in the world. At first, Inter didn't play him much, so he went on loan, first to Fiorentina, then to Parma. And at Parma, the world truly began to notice Adriano. At Parma, Adriano unleashed chaos on Serie A defenders. His combination of power and technique was unreal. He wasn't just fast, he was explosive. He wasn't just strong, he was unstoppable. And then there was that left foot. In one famous game against Real Madrid, Adriano picked up the ball, shrugged off defenders, and smashed it into the net from distance. Commentators didn't even have words. The ball seemed to travel faster than physics allowed. Adriano's free kicks were thunderbolts. His shots were rockets. He didn't just score goals, he destroyed nets. By 2004, Inter Milan knew they had a monster on their hands. They brought him back, gave him the number 10 shirt, and handed him the crown. The Emperor had arrived. From 2004 to 2005, Adriano was unplayable. At 22 years old, he was already one of the best strikers in the world. In 2004, he led Brazil to win the Copa America almost single-handedly. In the final against Argentina, Brazil were seconds away from defeat. And then, Adriano. With one swing of his left foot, he smashed the equalizer in the 93rd minute. Brazil went on to win on penalties, and Adriano was named player of the tournament. He did it again at the 2005 Confederations Cup, Brazil versus Argentina in the final. Adriano scored twice, dominated completely, and Brazil lifted the trophy. At Inter, he was the same. Defenders couldn't cope. He was too fast, too strong, too lethal. He scored hat tricks, he scored screamers, He scored headers, tap-ins, volleys, everything. In Italy, they called him l'Imperatore, the Emperor. He was supposed to be the next legend, the man to finally step into Ronaldo's shoes. But then, tragedy struck. In 2004, Adriano received a phone call that would change his life forever. His father, the man who had raised him, supported him, believed in him, had died suddenly of a heart attack. Adriano was 22. He was at the peak of his powers, and in that one moment, everything collapsed. His teammates later said that when Adriano heard the news, he screamed like an animal. He dropped the phone and cried uncontrollably. His father had been his anchor, his motivation, his everything. Without him, Adriano felt lost. On the pitch, he kept scoring. But off it, he was drowning. Adriano turned to alcohol to numb the pain. He partied all night, drank heavily, surrounded himself with people who weren't really friends. Inter tried to help. Coaches begged him to focus. Teammates tried to guide him. Even legends like Javier Zanetti and Ronaldo himself reached out. But the truth was, Adriano was broken. He once admitted, "After my father died, I was left with a void. I was only happy when I was drinking, but I drank too much and I didn't stop." His fitness began to drop. His sharpness faded. Inter fined him, benched him, loaned him out. But nothing worked. By 2008, Adriano was a shadow of the emperor he once was. In 2009, Adriano returned to Brazil. He joined Flamengo, the club where it all began. And for a brief, beautiful moment, the emperor came back to life. He scored 19 goals, fired Flamengo to a league title, and fans sang his name again. He looked reborn, smiling, strong, unstoppable, the Adriano of old. But the demons never left. The nightlife, the drinking, the depression, they all returned. By 2010, he was gone again. Roma took a gamble on him. It failed. Corinthians tried. It failed. Clubs in Brazil, even Miami, tried to revive him. But Adriano's body was gone. His willpower was gone. His heart wasn't in football anymore. By his early 30s, Adriano was finished. He quietly retired without a farewell match, without the send-off that legends deserve. The man who was once the most feared striker in the world simply disappeared from football. He went back to Vila Cruzeiro, the favela where it all started. Some said he was happier there, surrounded by childhood friends, away from the pressure of fame. Others said it was tragic that a man of such talent had fallen so far. So how should we remember Adriano? Do we remember the wasted potential, the broken promises, the man who could have been Brazil's next Ronaldo but threw it all away? Or do we remember the magic, the thunderous left foot, the impossible goals, the smile, the power, the glory of those years when he truly was the emperor? Because for a short time, Adriano was football at its most raw. He was strength, beauty, and chaos rolled into one. Even Lionel Messi once said, "Adriano was one of the greatest. If he had kept his head straight, he would have been the best in the world." And maybe that's the point. Adriano's story is a reminder that footballers aren't machines. They're human. And sometimes, even the greatest talent can't survive the weight of grief. Today, Adriano lives quietly. No riches, no stadiums, no trophies. Just a man who once touched the sky and then fell back to earth. And yet, ask any fan who saw him play and they'll tell you, for those few golden years when Adriano stepped onto the pitch, he was unstoppable. He was a force of nature. He was the emperor. And though his crown slipped away too soon, his legend, his story, will never be forgotten.